Hi, I am Cassie, the English teacher, and this is our series about moving to Uruguay and all things Uruguay. Today's video is, I'm actually a little bit nervous to post it because, the internet. But this video is for people who are trans and considering Uruguay. If you have political opinions about that, leave that in the US. Like, we're peaceful down here. I don't want it. I'll block it or delete it. I'm just telling you now. Okay. So the last video I made was kind of a decision rubric for people deciding where to go from the US, right? And I broke it down, if you remember, into three big categories, which were legal protections, cultural attitudes, and healthcare. And I made that video, and I'm super lucky because I have a friend here who is a trans woman who moved here from the US, and she reached out and said, I'll do an interview to talk about the cultural attitudes here in Uruguay, which is divine. I mean, it's so great. And so that's what this video is today. I did want to start out with, I'm a teacher. I love a rubric, So I'm going to do the legal part first. I'm going to just explain the legal protections that trans people enjoy here in Uruguay first. And then I will include the interview with her about the cultural attitudes. And hopefully from that, if you are a trans person considering Uruguay, that will give you all of the information that you need to have. Cool. I'm sorry for my voice. I have allergies to the trees that are pollinating right now, so I've been coughing a lot, so my voice is scratchy, but I felt like this is a very important video that needs to be out as soon as possible, so we're powering through. In 2018, a law was passed here called Ley Número 19684. So law number 19684. Okay, I'm sorry about the yappy dogs. They're always there all afternoon. I can't change that. Okay, so this law has been in effect for 7 years now. I'm actually going to take you, instead of summarizing the law like I kind of normally do to people, I pulled up the text of the law in Spanish, and I'm actually going to go through the law and tell you exactly what it says, because I think that is the most accurate representation of it. And I would encourage you, that's why I listed the number of the law. I would encourage you to look that up. You can look it up in Spanish and then just translate piece by piece, whatever you want to do. But, you should also verify for yourself that this is what this law says. You know what I mean? I wanted to start out Article 1. I'm going to say it in English, of course. This is the translation. So, Article 1 of this law, this is how it starts. Every person has the right to the free development of their personality in accordance with their own gender identity, regardless of their biological, genetic, anatomical, morphological, hormonal, assigned, or other sex. So, I love that intro. It's like you have the right to be yourself, period. It's great. Okay, then there's a bunch of other articles that are, kind of making some definitions, defining what a trans person is. I don't think that that's necessary to go into in this video. Articles 6 through 9 guarantee the right to change your name and gender marker on official government documents. And it does specifically give minors the ability to do that too. So, when I was talking about, how to evaluate the legal protections in different countries, I said something that's proactive, right? So it proactively says minors also have the right to do this. I think that is a good sign, Article 10 is all about reparations for trans people who were persecuted during the dictatorship. So in the 70s and 80s, there was a dictatorship, and So there are still people around who suffered under that, and this law gave them reparations, which again, like, can you imagine? It blew my mind a little bit. Article 12 is that trans people must have 1% of government jobs. Article 13 is trans people must make up 1% of students in the National Vocational Training Program. So these two are just guaranteeing that trans people are making up, if they're 1% of the population, they should be 1% of any, governmental body or school system or anything, it should match, right? So they're just making sure that that's happening. And then they kind of set up some committees to track that. Articles 15 through 17 talk about education, both public school and university, and how schools need to provide inclusion and support for trans students. Articles 19 through 21 give the right to gender affirming healthcare, or don't give, but like affirm the right to gender affirming healthcare. And you can read through like the exact language of the rules, but basically, the government system here, the free government system here has doctors that treat trans people, and then private facilities also have to treat trans people. So it's, there's no discrimination there. It should be available for everyone. I will say that it still varies wildly, mutualista to mutualista. So if you are trans, that's part of the healthcare part of the rubric. You got to do some research into the different facilities and figure out where you want to go. And then Article 22 guarantees no housing discrimination. So, we've got documentation, we've got healthcare, we've got anti-discrimination in housing and education and jobs and government. It really is an all-encompassing, very proactive law. So I think it's really like the best I've seen in terms of just protecting so many rights, Okay, so that's kind of the summary of the law itself. I hope that helps. Again, read it yourself too, though. Like, if you're going to move across the world, know where you're moving, right? The other thing I said in the legal part of the rubric was not only do you need to have a strong federal or national proactive law, so this one checks all those boxes, in my opinion. You also need to look at the pushback against that law, because every time a law like that is passed, there's going to be some opposition, right? So here in Uruguay, the law was passed in 2018, and there was an effort in 2019 to repeal it, but it could not even get 10% of the population like involved enough to fight back against it, or to repeal it, or to whatever. At the time, I've read some articles, about what people were saying when they were in 2019, when they were trying to get people to overturn this law. The main critique that the conservative parties had here was that it gives trans people preferential treatment. So like having to have 1% of government jobs, the reparations, things like that. And then, of course, there were some religious, objections to it as well mixed in there. But, from what I read, it was more of that than like, we don't like trans people. It was more just like, this is giving them preferential treatment. So still not great. Still, we don't like to see that. But the fact that it's less than 10% of the population, that happened in 2019. A conservative government was then in power for 5 years, and it wasn't repealed. It wasn't overturned in that whole 5 years. So I think that the fact that it's 7 years old and there's not a lot of opposition is probably a pretty good sign that it's at least for the foreseeable future, a pretty secure law. So that's the legal protections here that you would have. I'll quickly just mention, I'm not going to go over the healthcare because I have a video on my channel about healthcare here in Uruguay, and the last part of the video is about trans healthcare, and it mentions the mutualistas to explore. It like goes into depth about it there, so I'm not going to repeat myself, especially with my scratchy voice. So that's the law, the legal, and the health. So now I'm going to add in my interview with my friend Betty. I do want to mention, like, she is an immigrant here from the US, okay? So her perspective is one of an immigrant. And I do know, because I'm a teacher in public schools here. I talk to Uruguayans. I am aware that trans Uruguayans have it harder sometimes than maybe is going to come across in this interview. It's people are not always accepted by their families. So I just want to give that disclaimer that I recognize that there are trans Uruguayans who are not accepted by their families and have it much more difficult. And, I don't know why, but I just need to say that because I want to acknowledge that and say, no, it's not all hunky dory. A lot of people, it's kind of like, I don't care if other people are gay, but no son of mine kind of vibes for some people here. So I just want to acknowledge that and say that there's still work to be done, but we're going to get the perspective of a trans person who's walking around on the streets in Montevideo and interacting with people, and how she feels that she's treated, how she feels the cultural attitudes towards her are. And yeah, I hope that it's helpful. I would also then, I'm full of disclaimers today. My God. I also want to say this is one person, right? So if you are going to move here, I would say get different opinions, get a wide variety of opinions. It's just like the video I made with my friend who's Black. Like, she is one person and she had a certain experience and she can share her experience. But that's not the end all be all. So this is not the end all be all, but I think Betty is very eloquent and she does a great job of explaining how she feels, navigating life here. So without further ado, let's go. So now we're going to talk about cultural attitudes in Uruguay. And just like I said before in my video about Black people here in Uruguay, I can't tell you what it feels like to be trans here in Uruguay. But luckily, my very good friend Betty is here to talk about that and share with us. So everybody in the comments, say thank you so much for being so kind. So this is just an interview. I'm gonna talk with you. How do you feel just walking down the street?
Yes, I feel just fine. There's an attitude here that I think in the States could be interpreted as standoffish, but here it's just that my life is my life, your life is your life. I don't know you, I don't really care. So yes, I feel safe. So far, so good. I've been in Montevideo in a few different neighborhoods, and it's been good for sure.
Yeah, like no, you don't feel just with strangers. There's no.
No, I mean there is old sort of defensiveness from being in the States, that in the States was sort of a required survival technique that is not required here. So, yeah, I guess that's it. You just don't need that here. It will take time to let that go, but the relaxation of not being in a fascist state that's using me and mine specifically as a wedge to tear the country apart, well, that's worth having to let go of some stuff, I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah. So you generally feel like people just don't care.
Yeah.
They don't look twice.
There is, here in Uruguay, there's not actually, as you know, there's Pride Month, but it's not Pride Month, it's Diversity Month. And that means pretty much anybody who isn't cis, het, white, that's cisgendered, heterosexual, and white. And queer folk are not sort of, there isn't a need for queer folk to create our own month because it's not a big deal to be queer here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it's a little weird just because my experience as a queer person in the US has been about claiming that and stating it proudly and, you know, but here, the reasons for doing that in the States were at least partly about having to stand up against those forces that were trying to wipe me out. And here those forces just don't exist. At least I haven't encountered them yet. So, so it's kind of weird. It's like I don't actually need to self-consciously fly my freak flag, you know?
Right.
I can fly it for sure, but I don't have to in order to claim my identity or to ground myself in myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's beautiful, actually.
It really is. It absolutely is.
I will say that I find Uruguayans to be super kind and accepting and loving. How do you have any stories about that? How do you find them to be?
Yes. I think in general, I want to back up what you just said, that the default is to be kind. To be unkind it's like it doesn't really occur to them, you know, which is also very weird as someone from the U.S. to have that be the just sort of the standard. So in terms of being trans, so currently my wife and our partner and I are looking for a new place to live. We had a 3-month lease and now it's time to find something a little longer, like a year. And yesterday I went to see an apartment and the man who owns the apartment was there and he was just delightful, very sweet. Thankfully his English was excelente. And we were talking about the heating because here a lot of places have single pane windows and this past winter was the coldest winter in 60 years, which is when we got here and it was miserable because we were in such a place. So I asked him about the heating and he was talking about the radiant heating in the floors and how they often have to open a window. And then he said specifically, well, you know, men generally run hotter than women, so you may not have that experience. And, you know, such a teeny tiny thing. And I don't know if he clocked me. I mean, the whole thing about being clocked is the weight that it has in the States, it doesn't have here.
Right.
You know, the same thing as being queer in general, that there's a diversity month rather than a queer month because of that. But I don't really care because the way that affirmed my gender, possibly in a slightly sexist way, but you know, I was happy to take it, so I did. And it was so casual and so easy, and there was no weight on it. Like there was a little bit of hesitation in his voice, but I think it had to do with my being a woman rather than my being trans. Which, I'm just saying it now, it's making me verklempt. Thank you, darling. So another story, and this was very early on. So we got here at the end of June, and my wife and our partner had closed down our apartment in San Francisco, and it was incredibly stressful. anyone who's had to do something like that, we had to give up, my wife is in her early 70s, I'm in my mid 50s, we had to give up 30 years of accumulated stuff. And a lot of it we just had to give away, and the rest we had to just pay somebody to come and break apart and throw in a bin. It's not easy. It's absolutely worth it. Okay, so we're all just addled. And one thing about Uruguay is that most places have a washer and most places do not have a dryer. Everyone, regardless of social class, hangs their laundry from a line. And in this tiny apartment, this Airbnb that we rented, there really wasn't any place to hang the clothes. So basically we had a pile of dirty clothes. So we did something I'd never done before, which was send clothes out to a laundromat. And they don't really have laundromats here like we have in the States where you can go and do your own laundry. You have to, it's a whole other thing. Anyway, this is to say that we sent it out, and when it came back, these two women came, one probably about my age and one younger. And how you pay for things here is very different in the States. I mean, you figure it out very quickly, cards, that's all the same, but the particulars are a little bit different. So they brought a wireless card reader so that we could pay them as they brought our clothes back. So I had my card and I put it in the reader and it was taking a while and it wasn't going through. So I looked at them both and they looked at me and there were twinkles in the eyes all around. And I went like that, like I was trying to cast a spell on it to make it work. And they just started laughing. And so the three of us are laughing and it doesn't work. So I pull it out and she goes like this and I'm like, sure. And then I put it in the wrong end of the machine. And they just start laughing harder and we're all laughing. And it's just a really delightful exchange. And I speak very little Spanish and one of them spoke a little bit of English. So we absolutely, I will say most people I've met speak a little bit of English, and you can navigate, but that's another story. Okay, so we make the transaction. We're all smiling. They head off in the elevator. 30 seconds later, the alarm, the intercom for the building goes, and I pick up the phone. Hola. And it's these two women, and they have locked themselves in between the front door and the gate. So we're all laughing and laughing. So I go downstairs and the elevator opens and they're right there. There's a small hallway. And as soon as they see me, they strike, pseudo-sexy poses like, oh, you've got us in this little cage. What are you going to do with us? And we're laughing so hard. So I let them out. And then the older one turns to me. And actually, it turns out she had more English than I thought. And she said, is this your first time here? And I said, yes. And she says, Uruguay is a beautiful country. And then she says, how long are you going to be here? And I say, this is it. We live here now. And she looks me straight in the eyes and she takes one of my hands in hers. I know. Here, give me your hand. Okay, just like this. And she says,
don't make me cry.
you can live at peace here.
Aww.
Right? So that's been my experience so far. So
Yeah, no, that's, I get tell a lot of stories too about just people being like, welcome, it's peaceful here.
Yes.
Oh
Yes,
my
and
God.
when that sort of defensiveness comes up, that immediate rush to, I better make sure that I've dotted that I on page 4, subsection paragraph, or they're going to deny me whatever. That's not the way it is here. The point is to help people. The point is that society is better when we're all getting the essentials that we need.
Yeah.
Which is the way it should be.
I mean, they will still make you dot the I. and cross the T.
Yeah, it's not that there's not bureaucracy.
They'll just do it kindly.
Yes. And they'll
That's
help
been our
you.
experience anyway.
Yes, they'll help you. They won't, suddenly
Like,
surprise you.
Do this thing right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my experience so far as a queer person in general and a trans woman in particular has been really good. There's the limbic system calming down, sort of chunks of armor falling off. And when I notice I'm being defensive, it'll stop myself and say, oh, look, that's a natural response to what is clearly now a fascist state. That's self-defense. But here, it's not, and it's not necessary. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this place.
I know, I love it so much, and I'm always like just fangirling Uruguay.
And I just want to say before I forget, this girl here,
No.
very, very helpful to us, her videos, in deciding to come here and getting a real feel for it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just some weirdo on the internet.
Yay! Yay for weirdos on the internet.
So we talked about like walking down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other thing like renting the apartment or going to immigration,
Right,
going
right.
to get health care,
Right.
any step along the way where you felt like there was any friction at all?
No.
No.
Really, no. No official or unofficial.
I have a friend who has a rainbow mohawk, and he was here on a scouting trip, and he was like, are people depressed here? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And he's like, they don't look at me. And I present very radically, and in the US, everyone looks at me, and I was like, they don't care. Like, I just don't know how to tell you that.
Yeah.
They just don't
It's an
care.
absolutely benign neglect.
They might care if you were like a friend or family member. They'll care a lot, but like people walking down the street, like
Your
that's
business
none of
is
my
yours,
business.
theirs
Yeah.
is theirs. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of lovely. I mean, for me, it's exactly ideal because it's just, and it extends to everything, like not just trans people. Like
Yes.
if an autistic kid is flopping away, nobody cares about that either. Like it's just everybody is just living their lives.
I will say that most fashion seems to be black, brown, or beige, but I go out in my plaid skirts and my kissy lips, sweater, and nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Some people look down on other people. That's inevitable. And I'm sure if you went out to Carrasco or some different places, you might have
Get a little more of.
you might get a different opinion. Certainly if you went to Punta del Este, very different opinion. But I think here in Montevideo, I think people just, you have your neighborhood and everyone knows each other. It's like a small town. And so it's harder to be a jerk to someone that you're going to see every day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's just the simple sauce of it all. Like,
Well, I think there's just, like, this society works. Why would you want to be a poopy head? I mean, there's not, I certainly haven't seen anybody on a street corner screaming to me about God or hell or any of that. Like I have not yet seen, and I've only been here 3 months, but I haven't seen anything to indicate that there are groups of people who are trying to get other groups of people to hate yet another group of people.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, because you're never going to go anywhere in the world where 100% of people are cool with trans people. Unfortunately, hopefully one day. One day. But right now, it's never going to happen, no matter where you go, right? Like, you can always find a jerk. And But I think that what you just said is actually the key to all of it here. That nobody's starting a movement to demonize this group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is the difference. Like, even in the US, you can live a great life in your community and stuff until so many horrible things came to my head that I cannot say out loud. Until someone who wasn't hugged as a child starts a movement to demonize you, and then suddenly all these things are happening to you that are outside of your control, and you're kind of like, WTF, like, I was having a great life over here and I wasn't bothering anyone. So maybe that's the difference. It's like nobody's starting a movement against. You can always find someone who doesn't like particular groups, but nobody's starting a movement here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're gonna scapegoat trans people, or we're gonna scapegoat black people, or
which
we're
is
gonna
always
scapegoat
only
immigrants.
a path to power. And
Right.
again, I haven't gotten that feeling here.
Yeah. Like, the important things to do to get ready to leave, if you're kind of in this gray zone where you haven't made the choice yet, I would say, like, getting all of your documents, like updated documents.
That's a really good point.
And I'm not saying to change your gender on anything, because honestly, at this point, this might go against other people's advice, but if you might leave the US, I wouldn't change anything. I would keep it, whatever it is that allows you to get out. It's better to just keep everything and be able to get out, and then wherever you go, change it there. I talked with my immigration guy, who's this lovely, lovely young man, and like, we strategized. I was like explaining to him what's happening, and he's sympathetic, and he was like, okay, what I would suggest is whatever they have right now, just leave everything the same and bring everything down, and then sort it out when they get here.
Yeah.
Would be better.
Yeah.
Which is contrary to some other advice. So, get lots of advice. Like, I don't want to be your only person, but
Sure.
make sure that you
Absolutely.
are considering that. And the second thing you do, which sounds so dumb, but maybe you can back me up on this. The hardest thing that you have to do is not the paperwork, it's not deciding, it's not researching, it's getting rid of all your shit.
Yes.
It's getting rid of all of your stuff.
I was just gonna say that. that.
You can start doing that, and just get rid of the stuff you don't want, and that will be half of your stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
And that will prepare you to be light on your feet. And so we're sitting here saying, Uruguay is very, very accepting and kind to trans people. It's legally protecting trans people. The healthcare is available to trans people. As of right now, October 12th, 2025, it would be a good decision for a trans person to move here. Yes or no?
Oh, heck yeah. Yes, very much yes. I just want to say, as one trans person to another, GTFO, as quick as you can. So I'm hoping to come back very soon with some detailed lists of, trying to simplify what are the laws here, what's the likelihood that you can apply for asylum here and receive it, because there are many places in the world where if you apply for asylum and don't get it, they will boot you out for quite some time. So you want to, maximize that impact. That being said, for people who are requesting asylum, I just looked today, you have the opportunity for healthcare, and you have the opportunity for employment. Now, whether or not you can actually get a job is another question, but you can look for a job, which, for instance, in New Zealand, you cannot until you become a full resident. So there's a lot of reasons that this might be a place to come as a refugee. So if you are good with it, I will come back and we will do this soon.
We will have to do another one about that, though, because that is going to require a lot of research.
Yes.
So that one might have to be after the school year ends and I have summer. And I actually have time because it's the Uruguayan school year is ending, so my teaching year is ending which means I'm like super stressed getting the end of the year stuff done.
Oh, gosh.
So the biggest disservice would be to paint a picture of something that's not possible for people or something like that. And what I try to do on my channel is say it's not possible for everyone, unfortunately. Like it isn't. I mean, realistically it isn't. But here's who it is possible for in this country. And maybe that means you have to look at a different country or whatever. But at least as far as today, I hope we have addressed that really difficult to define cultural attitude part of the picture.
Yes.
Because I think that's the hardest one. Like you can research the healthcare, you can research the laws, but like getting a feel for the culture is
Right.
really hard.
Like so many things in
So-
life, you can't truly understand it until you've been there.
Until you're there, exactly, 100% exactly. So I really want to thank you so much.
Yay.
I hope this is going to help a lot of people.
Yes, me too.
And it's very kind of you to be here and to help
I
everyone.
have been wanting to do something like this for a long time, so I'm really grateful to
It's
you
beautiful.
for having the space to do it.
It's beautiful to like move and then turn around and help other people follow you.
As best I can.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's absolutely wonderful. And so, anyway, before I start crying, we're gonna end this video. That's all from us. So do all the things. I'll see you in the next video. Leave all the comments and bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.